Hello, welcome to lesson 31 of Learn New Testament Greek. This is the first of a series of 7 lessons looking at John chapter 4. Lesson 30 was an introductory lesson, and in this lesson we start from verse 4 and go to verse 6 when Jesus meets the woman of Samaria at the well. So John chapter 4 verse 4, Ede de auton di ergestai dietes Samarias. So this word ede, the base form is de, and the as always indicates past tense. So this is, it was necessary, and that goes with auton. So that corresponds to, in English we might say, it was necessary for him. And the de just means like but or though. I probably would leave it untranslated here. So this word de is used quite often by John. And interestingly, the Jewish historian Josephus uses the same word to say you had to use this road. So Jesus is going from Galilee to Judea, and the shortest way was straight through Samaria. And going by this road, you could do it in 3 days. Otherwise, and the Jews would often do this, they would actually cross the Jordan River and go along other territory and then come back again just to avoid going through Samaria in the middle. But in other places in John's Gospel, this word indicates that there is a God reason. And perhaps we can't rule that out here. He's not just saying it's necessary for faster travel, but the chapter seems to show that there was actually a God reason for Jesus to do it. And so you can look at other instances of this word that we've actually covered in previous lessons. John chapter 2 verse 4 and chapter 3 verse 14, and the word will occur a couple of times later in this chapter. Chapter 4 verse 20 and 24. Now, di ergestai, so this is erchamai, meaning come, and d means go through, so, and the a is lost, but here the word is repeated in full. So this is fairly characteristic too of John's style and of other New Testament writers. The little word occurs here. It's joined at the beginning of the verb, and then it's also repeated afterwards. So this is dia ergestai, with the a dropping out. So this is an infinitive, the characteristic I ending. So it was necessary for him to go. First approximation for erchamai is come, but here we translate it go. It was necessary for him to go through, and with the dia, through, the following noun is in the genitive, but in English we just say through Samaria. Ergetai, so here's ergetai again. This is the base form of it. Here we have the infinitive, and here we have the base form. Which means like so or then. Eis, into or in a city of Samaria, legomenen sukar. Now here's the point, this eis, first approximation, eis means into, and the word pros means to but not into. But here we have eis meaning to but not into. So we meet quite an important point here. The New Testament is not a theology textbook where words maintain precise, consistent and non-overlapping meanings. No. This word eis has moved into the area of the word pros, so not precisely defined and used. Oh, I should mention that this is present tense, erchetai, present tense. Erchomai is the base form, which means I come. Erchetai, he comes. So that's present. And this is what's sometimes called the historic present. Even though talking about something in the past, John uses the present tense to, you could say, perhaps make the action more vivid. But it's interesting that as soon as the story begins, he jumps straight into the present tense. Jesus comes to a city of Samaria named Legumene. That's a participle, present passive, with the N object ending, same as the Polin had, Polin city. Polis is the Greek word for city. We actually get politics from it because of the politics of the Greek city-states. And this indicates that it's a feminine ending going with Polin. But Sukkar, which is a Hebrew word or a Samaritan word, doesn't change its ending because Hebrew words don't do that. Plesion tu choriu ha edoken Jacob to Joseph to huio autu. So plesion means near. The same word is actually used for neighbor, but here it's like an adverb, near, and going with that is the genitive, to choriu, near. In English we just say near to the area, which edoken, he gave Jacob. So this verb, meaning give, occurs several times in this passage, and we'll talk a bit more about its different forms. It's not completely regular. With this K here, you expect it to be perfect because that's characteristic of perfect. But the other characteristic of perfect is that the first letter is repeated, dedoken, and that would make it perfect. But this is just the E beginning, the Greek letter called epsilon, and so that indicates not perfect but past tense, in this case the simple past tense, which is technically called aorist. So, and here's the typical order: verb, subject, and then he gave it to Joseph, his son. So huios is the word for son, and here it's in the dative, to Joseph. But note again that this Hebrew name is not changed. It takes no ending because Hebrew words don't do that. Verse 6. Ende eke pege to Jacob. There was, there again, and again we won't translate it, there was there a spring, or, well, again, strictly this word means spring, but actually here it's referring to a well of Jacob. So again, the word for the changes its form. This is the genitive, so it's the well of Jacob. So the Greek part changes its ending, but again the Hebrew name does not change its ending. Jacob's well, not mentioned anywhere else in Scripture. Haun Jesus kekopiakos ektes hodoi porias ekathizeto hutos epitepege hora en hos hekte. So haun, and again un, like de, is always the second word in the sentence. It comes between these two, ha Jesus, the Jesus. Well, again, the Greek says the, but we don't say the Jesus. We just say Jesus. But it occurs here in Greek, and this un, then or so, is inserted right between these two words, which is part of the style of the way Greek does things. ke kopiakos. This is a participle, and the root is kopi, and the repeated ke tells you that this is a perfect, so it's repeated the first letter and it's put in a vowel, which is usually e, and so it's a perfect participle, and the ending shows us that it's masculine singular. Ek, so this is from, again we'd use from in this slightly extended sense in English, worn out from the journey. This word has two parts, hodos, which is way or journey, and we use this word in English with the word odometer. So odometer measures, meter measures the journey. Porias, making or going. So he's exhausted from the journey. Ekathezeto. This is actually an imperfect. The e at the beginning, epsilon, tells us that it's past, and the form of it tells us that it's imperfect. Hutos could mean either in this tired condition, or more probably at once without further ado. Epitepege, upon the well, and probably meaning on the rim of the well, surrounding the well to stop small animals from falling into the well. Hora ein hos hekte. Hora, and that's related to the English word hour. Ein, it was. Hos, the first approximation translation of this is as, and so here we would translate it as about. Hekte, 6. So hekte is Greek for 6, and as sometimes happens when the Greek word goes into Latin, the H becomes an S, so sec, and then it changed into X, 6, which is Latin for 6. So obviously our word 6 is related as well. So this looks quite different, but it's actually a direct relative of our English word 6. But you see it preserved in like mathematical terms like hexagon. Hexagon as a figure with 6 corners or 6 sides. So the 6th hour, and the Jews were probably measuring time the same way as the Romans did. They divide the day into 12 hours, starting from dawn, so the 6th hour would be about noon. And normally you wouldn't come to get water in the heat of the day, so the question is, why didn't she do it when the other woman did in the cool of the evening? Well, as we'll see, she was popular with the men, but maybe not so popular with the women.